Welcome, everybody, to the Pub Sports Radio Baseball Show. My name is Jose Bouquet, and today we have a special guest. We have the illustrious Michael Holley of NBC Boston, an author. Actually, you've written a bunch of books. I was going to say new author, but you've got your books down here. Author of the Big Three: Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen, the Rebirth of the Boston Celtics. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Feeling really good. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to this conversation. You know, you got to tell people we've been trying to make this happen for a while, so we finally have come to that moment where we get to have a conversation.
Yes, it's a big time moment, Michael. Let me tell you, we've had to reschedule this a couple times. Some have been my fault, some have been your fault. It's been a ride. You know, I've enjoyed it, and like I said, this moment has been coming for a while. And,
fault's too negative. That's too negative a word.
You're right.
Fault's not fault. You know, things happen. You have to make some really smart decisions.
Yes.
Your first pivot, that was a smart decision. I think I had the pivot first, and then you had the smartest pivot of all. So,
well, yes. Let me tell you, Michael. When I realized that I had made that mistake, I was with my girlfriend at the time, and it looked like a ghost had just washed over me. And she literally asked me, like, "Hey, what's wrong? Did something happen?" And I had a mini panic attack. It was good. It was great. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. But hey, we're here now, and it's awesome. It's awesome talking to you.
Well, thanks for saying that. Looking forward to the conversation.
No problem, Michael. First of all, I'm going to give you a compliment to start this off because I'm sitting in such a giving mood. I don't know if you know this, Michael. I am 23 years old, and in my 23 years on this earth, I have finished exactly 2 books, front to cover. One actually paper hard book now. I know this is probably coming to a shock to you. I don't know if you know this, but millennials, we don't read anymore apparently. But I have finished 1, the Jordan Rules, and now 2, your book. It is. I don't know if I can give a higher compliment than that, honestly.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah,
2 books.
Exactly. I know.
You're on a roll now.
Thank you.
I think the Jordan Rules. The Jordan Rules came out before you even born.
Yes.
So I don't know when you first read the Jordan Rules.
Let me tell you, Michael, it was less than a year ago. So we're starting this reading thing. We're on a roll.
That's what I'm saying. So you've read 2 books in about a year.
Yeah, momentum.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, momentum's building.
And
exactly.
Then it's gonna bite you. Now you won't be able to stop.
Exactly. Hey, hopefully that's my goal. That was the thing here. I've been told many times that I need to read books. And, I decided to listen to that advice, especially because this book is essentially my childhood, which is kind of weird to say. I don't want to give you that slight jab right there, but this book
it feels good.
Okay, good.
It's not a problem at all. Because I'm just see, a lot of people take that and say, "Oh, you're making me feel old." No, I look at it the other way. If somebody can connect, because that's what most people are trying to do. That's what most communicators are trying to do. They're trying to connect with you in some way. So even if you say, "Hey, I listened to you when I was like 4 years old or 5 years old," or "You made me think of my childhood and you were covering it and I was a little kid, but this is how I first fell in love with basketball," I think that's a compliment. So I love hearing that.
Yes, this book was like very much right up my alley. I'm that weird guy. I grew up in Virginia, so I didn't have like I guess a basketball team per se. No one's gonna root for the Wizards because that is a detrimental decision. So I kind of latched on to the Red Sox at first, and then 2008 and 2010, all these years happened. And shout out to my man Grievous Vasquez, the only Venezuelan basketball player out there. Appreciate him getting me into basketball as well. So I kind of latched onto the Celtics, and reading this kind of filled in all my memory gaps. Like I of course, as a kid, you're like, oh, Ray Allen, KG, Paul Pierce, those are the only guys on the team. And then I had a personal affinity for Rajon Rondo, of course, but I don't like. This is the first time I'm reading like, oh, here's James Posey, and he likes to give people hugs, and all this stuff. And you learn so much about the Celtics in this book, and the quotes are outrageous. And like I said, it was just a great overall read. And, I'm excited to talk to you about it. But first, let's talk about your new show here on Peacock. You and your boy Michael Smith, you guys reunite, come together, a 2-hour show on Peacock, streaming now. I actually listened to the podcast, was listening to it on my way here, too. My first taste of the podcast was you guys talking about my Jets, actually, too, which was kind of funny. Yeah. And like I
Oh
said,
my
Michael,
God.
the weirdness continues. I'm a New England sports fan. I'm a Boston sports fan, but I can't get down with the Patriots, and I had to go with my other guy, my other Hispanic guy, Mark Sanchez. I had to roll with the Jets. So I lived that cursed life, but I love the show. I love the podcast, and I just want to know, how did you and Michael, because you guys have history together, how did you guys connect, and how did you guys reconnect for the show?
Yeah, oh, that's funny. I just have to say that it's hilarious that you would come in on the Jets one.
Yeah, of course.
Because
awesome.
I just love, it's a weakness. I know it makes me a bad person. I love telling Jets jokes. I love making fun of the Jets.
It's very easy, let me tell you, and I love it too.
Great. So it's like they just write them. They write the jokes, write themselves. They really do. Oh yes. Man, God bless you for sticking with the Jets and being with them. Like the Jets, they really brag. Jets fans and Jets players too. They brag about things that they shouldn't be bragging about. They brag about division titles, conference championship game losses.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, to answer your question, we can talk about the Jets later. We can talk about the Jets all day if you want. We can talk about them more than talking about the book. Anyway, Michael Smith is 9 years younger than I am. So I was a columnist at the Boston Globe, and I was assigned to mentees. Every mentee has a mentor.
Yes.
And I didn't know him, and he was assigned to me as my mentee. And he likes to tell the story. It's true that I was on vacation at the time, and he was driving up from New Orleans, where he's from with his family. His housing broke down, and so he had no place to stay. And he left some rambling message on my voicemail. I actually listened to voicemail at that time. He left some rambling message on my voicemail like, "Hey, you don't know me. My name is Michael Smith. I'm with my entire family right now. Can I stay in your place?" And I was like, "Whoa,
that's quite
this guy's nuts. Who is this dude? He wants this. He doesn't know me, and he's asking to stay in my apartment with his entire family." So I called the Globe. I was like, "Listen, don't give out my number anymore. Don't."
Of course. Okay.
Don't do this. Don't do this. This guy's crazy. And then I finally met him, and I felt kind of bad because he's a really nice guy, as you know. And it never really was a mentor-mentee relationship. We just hit it off immediately. And this is like in 1999. And here we are in 2020, 21 years into the relationship. We've just always been close. It's not even a friendship. I mean, his oldest, his daughter is my goddaughter. I was the best man at his wedding. He was the best man at my wedding. Our families, our wives know each other. Our parents know each other. So it's really a great connection. And so with this Peacock show, opportunity arose over the summer. I really wasn't thinking about it. I was approached with this concept of, "Hey, you want to do a show on Peacock?" And I said, "Okay, yeah. Do I want to do a show?" "Well, sure. I'm thinking about it." And then 5 minutes into this conversation with an executive, the executive says, "Now, if you ever wanted to do the show with," and as soon as he said "with," I said, "Oh, I got it. Yeah, I get the chance. I get a chance to do the show with somebody. I know who it is. I got the right person for it. It's going to be Michael Smith. And we're just going to do a show that is reflective of our phone conversations. And our phone conversations can span sports, music, politics, family, joke, whatever it is." And that's pretty much what the show is. It's just an extension of our conversations.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can really tell the chemistry you guys have. I mean, obviously, you guys go way back, and honestly, you guys do so many little things in the show that I really enjoy. Like starting off the show, Michael doesn't even introduce you, or you guys kind of just roll in there. You're just talking about whatever. May that be Greg Williams blitzing a lot of people and becoming my hero, my personal hero, or whatever that topic may be. James Harden has been popular. It's a great show, and if you're not listening to it or watching it, you guys definitely should. So, we got.
Oh, thanks for saying that. Yeah, thanks. No and Jose, we it's interesting that you make that observation, because we made the point of we really didn't want it to be. And I can understand. Like, okay, now just keep in mind, I have to do this in other capacities where I'm on a show. The show has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, it has teasers written in. Coming up after the break, we will explore this. Okay, come back. It's got to do that thing. But we didn't want to do that for this. We don't want to tease ahead. We don't want to say, hey, let's talk about this in a minute and a half. If it's a minute and a half, that's what it deserves. We give it a minute and a half. If it needs to be 7 minutes, we'll go 7 minutes. We just didn't want it to be a show with all of the sometimes artificial things that you find on radio shows or TV shows. We just want it to be as real as possible. And so that's why we do it that way. We just come in. I don't say, hey, look who's here. I know he's here. I was probably talked to him 45 minutes before the show started.
Yeah.
I don't want to pretend like this is something that it's not. What it is just, two great friends having a conversation.
Yeah, the authenticity is there, and you guys leave everything. I was listening to the podcast. I think it was from Monday on my way over here, and the first segment, Michael's going off. Where's my Kyrie sound, guys? And I was shaking in my boots for that producer. I was like, oh no, the Kyrie sound's not there. And I really, like I said, I enjoy the show. I enjoy both of you guys, and hey, I'm looking forward to continue listening.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. So on that show, speaking of it, I heard you and Michael talked about your book. I mean, obviously you guys can know each other better than ever, and he understands your writing process, and he's probably read all your other books. Again, and you might not know, you might probably know this now. I have not read any of your other books, but I know this one for sure.
I bet you he hasn't either. I bet you he owns them. Let's see. This is number 7. I would guess if I had to put a bunch of money on it, I would say he has read out of the 7 all the way through probably 2 of them.
What do you think those 2 are? Do you just want to take a random guess?
I know he read Patriot Rain, the first one. And the reason he read that, he's very supportive. Appreciate you, Michael Smith. He's supportive, but also he was covering the Patriots at the time. So
of course. It's double dipping right there.
Yeah. So let me just check this out, make sure I'm not missing anything. So he had to read that one. And I think he may have read the 4th one, which was called War Room. That was on 3 organizations. It was the Patriots, it was the Chiefs, and the Falcons. All the Patriot ties at the time. Scott Pioli was with the Chiefs. Thomas Dimitroff was with the Falcons, and obviously Bill Belichick was the Patriots. So. Yeah. I think he got down with that one.
I enjoy that light flex there, by the way, of you just having to comb through your memories. Like, was it my 3rd book, my 5th book? I
know.
I like that.
Man, it's like, it's wild. It's wild, man. I'll tell you, honestly, I sent this book. I signed a copy for my mother. and what I wrote to her was, just that. I said, Mom, can you believe this? Pretty much that was it. Can you believe this? Because I never imagined it. It's not something that was, I always knew I was going to write 7 books or whatever. When I was 8 years old, I knew I was going to do. No, I didn't. Yeah. I didn't. And when I was 8 years old, Jose, what I wanted to do was be involved in sports, but I thought it would be from a newspaper perspective. I thought I'd just write for newspapers the rest of my life because I was a paper boy. I'd read the papers and then I'd deliver them. I just thought about the newspaper was like the ultimate. That was my throne. That was the kingdom. And so I elevated all of those writers. Great writers for newspapers, terrible writers for newspapers. I thought they were all cool, the coolest people. Like, oh my God, you get to write for the paper, you get to travel, and you get to watch sports and talk about it. And that's your job? Really? That's your job? Are you kidding? So that's all I really thought about. I never thought about doing TV or radio or writing books. So I'm just every book, every TV show, really, I'm just very thankful to be in the position that I'm in.
And this is your first basketball book too, as well. You said on the show that you were kind of scared or a little, I guess, intimidated about writing a basketball book because this is your first one, and this is like the sport that you love. That you said, was it more of just a thing of write about something that you love, and then putting it out there for public consumption, and then everyone just being able to sink their teeth in it and criticize you for writing about something you love so much, or what was that was kind of daunting about writing a basketball book, your first one?
All right, well, I'll tell you what's daunting about it. You already mentioned one of these guys. So you mentioned, and I'm looking at it right now, actually. So you mentioned the Jordan rules. It's on my shelf. I'm looking at a shelf where I have the Jordan rules by Sam Smith. I have When the Game Was Ours, it's right next to it, by Jackie McMullen.
Yes.
Go down a little bit more, and you have Unfinished Business, a crazy underrated book by Jack McCallum of Sports Illustrated on the Celtics from the early 90s. And I didn't even mention, Bob Bryant, Bill Simmons, so many, terrific basketball writers. So, Zach Lowe is a really smart basketball writer. So if you're going to write a basketball book, I just feel like you had better have something to contribute, something of meaning, because the canon is pretty well stocked.
Yes.
And hey, don't come in like if in basketball terms, don't come to the hoop if you're not ready to come strong. So I just really wanted to be sure that it was the book, that this is the book. The first time I do it, I really want to make sure it's something good. And I just feel like, and I'm not even sure, those books I mentioned are great. And I'm not trying to say, oh, my book is better than those or anything. I don't even think that way. It just got to the point where I needed to write it. I was making excuses for why I couldn't write it at this time, or I got to wait for this, I got to wait for that. No, it's time to write the book. I took the first note on it 8 years ago in September 2012, getting ready for that 2012-13 season. As a matter of fact, in the early stage of that research, this is how long ago it was, Jose. The early stage of that research, I was in Celtics practice. I was standing between Danny Ainge and his assistant general manager, Mike Zarin, and they're having this long debate about why the Oklahoma City Thunder traded James Harden. And Danny was pissed. He was like, well, are you kidding me? They traded James Harden. I love James Harden.
Yeah.
James Harden's a young Paul Pierce, man. You don't trade that guy. You build around him. So they're going back. They're agreeing with each other, and they're saying, man, that Daryl Morey, he made a great trade. Well,
that Daryl Morey, yeah.
Yeah, that Daryl Morey.
That one guy,
who used to work with the Celtics, then was in Houston, now is in Philadelphia. So that's how long ago. It was a morning of that trade, and that's when I started taking notes on this book. So it was just time to it became a different book, obviously. It had 2 or 3 different iterations before it became the big 3. And so I'm just thankful that it's out, and I'm happy with it. I'm proud of it. I'm glad that I went through the process. I learned a lot about basketball as I put it together.
Yeah, great book. Like I said, you were at the Boston Globe from 97. Fun fact, that was the year I was born, so there you go. To 05. You got a front row seat, basically, to the building of this empire that is Boston sports now. You've got your Patriots over here. The Celtics came up. The Red Sox are there now. And we'll throw the Bruins in there for shits and giggles. But they all built up while you were just right in front of you. At what point did you think, or did you notice that Red Sox fans kind of shed that lovable loser kind of mentality and became just like the most, just like, and I'm a part of this, the most like cockiest like fan base that everyone else hates, but just simply just wishes they were?
Well, all right, a couple things. One, now, because I feel like I've known you for a long time, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of the statement and tell you that Wikipedia is awful sometimes.
Oh, okay. So yes, I love it.
I've heard, and you're not the only person to do this. Like, I did not start at the Boston Globe in 1997. Don't take those years away from me.
Okay.
I started at the Globe on September 6th, 1994.
Okay.
1994.
Okay.
That was my first day, 94 to 04. So September
I like that synergy there.
94 to April of 04. My last article, I believe, for the Globe was a game seven between the Bruins and the Canadians. The Bruins were favored in the series. They were up 3-1. They lost in 7 games.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, but so anyway, so that's the real story. So, but you're right. I was there for the front row of a lot of stuff, a lot of big events. And before I left the Globe, I mean, the Patriots had won a couple of championships. They had won 2, and then in that 04 season, they won in January of 05 or February of 05 in Jacksonville for their 3rd championship at that time. But then the Red Sox, see, I don't blame Red Sox fans. You think about this. You got to hear the Yankees just brag year after year how they took Babe Ruth from you and they got all these championships and you got nothing. You hear all these 1918 chants and all this other madness. When you finally win and they choke it away for you to win it, I don't blame them. Yes.
Finally.
Exalt. Yes. So, but I think it changed. You know what I think it changed with the Patriots, honestly. And I got a theory on this. I think it's just brains. It's the brain theory. Because the Patriots, when they won it in 2001, the story was, hey, look at this little team, this underdog team. They got a really smart head coach in Bill Belichick, and brains helped them win a championship. So that was 01. 02, 28-year-old Ivy Leaguer Theo Epstein becomes the youngest general manager in baseball history for the Red Sox. And so his brain was valued. So, like, once again, smarts. And so 2 years later, he has them winning a championship. The Bruins and Celtics watching all this winning. Like by 2005, as I said, the Patriots have their 3. The Red Sox have their 1. They've got a team that's capable of winning a couple more championships. The Celtics and Bruins are forced to catch up, and they got to start doing smart stuff. And that's what Wick Grossbeck and Steve Paliuca and Bob Epstein. Not only did they buy the team, they were like, "Wait a minute, we got to get up on analytics. We got to make sure we're a smarter team we got to be a smarter organization before we even bring in these talented players." So I think the smart theory just kind of went viral in Boston, and I think that's in part what led to this renaissance.
I think it's hilarious how, just let's hire smart people to run our sports franchise. And
how about that? That's novel.
Exactly. That caught on. I'll agree with you there. I wasn't obviously, coherent at this time to really get it, but when in my kind of backseat point of view, I feel like the real start of it, when I would have started getting cocky at least, was when the Celtics got the big 3. The Patriots were on their run. That was their undefeated season, I believe. They were on that run. They already had won their titles. The Red Sox had won their titles, and that's the peak. Like, how could this get any better?
Oh yeah,
this is our team's great. We have the best of everything, and hey, what can you do? But you mentioned Wick earlier. Wick Grossbeck, he bought the team, a measly, I believe it was like $360 million or something along that lines. And his first season when he owned the team, he sent out his phone number to season ticket holders to show how much he cared and all this stuff, and how much he was invested. He wanted to hear their feedback. So I have 2 questions for you here. Number 1, do you have Wick Grossbeck's number just readily available? Is he still comfortable just handing it out to strangers like that? And number 2, how important is it to have an owner that actually wants to win? Because I hear the saying all the time. There's a certain group of teams or a certain amount of teams in every sport that are playing to win championships, and then there's everyone else.
Yeah, that's those are 2 great questions. Yes, I have Wick's number.
Okay, awesome. I'm sure you wouldn't mind.
And Wick, here's the thing with him. And I wrote that he had people, he gave them his email and his phone number. What I didn't write, and it was true, he used to walk around Boston he'd have, and just like anywhere he went, he'd have, let's say, 100 tickets, 100 Celtics tickets, 200 tickets in his pocket. And he'd meet somebody like, hey, how you doing? We go to the Celtics. Hey, what do you like? What are you into? All stuff. Oh, you like the Celtics? Hey, you like, well, you don't like the Celtics? Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you come to a game? And he handled 4 tickets. So it really was a grassroots thing when he took over the team. He had to do that because the Celtics were so far behind. Nobody was really thinking about them as a championship organization. And that's why I say that very intentionally, championship organization. It's not just the players on the court. Man, he felt like, hey, we got to do some things marketing. We're not doing everything we can do to market the Celtics. We got a great brand. We're worldwide. We're the Boston Celtics. I love the mom and pop feel here. It's intimate, but we got to bring some corporate elements into, maximizing the value of the Celtics. So we got to do marketing. We got to do a better job of marketing. We got to do a better job with our business operation and the business infrastructure. We got to spend more money in basketball operations. Our scouting is lacking. We have very little international scouting presence. So he really looked at the entire operation and said, we got to get better. Now, when you said how important is it for an owner who wants to win a championship, I think it's important, but it's also important for that owner or those owners to be self-aware. You can go in, if we have all the money in the world, Jose, like 2 of us, we say, all right, we want to win a championship. We buy a team for, at this point, $1 billion. All
right, I'm in. Say less.
All right, we're in. Okay, we got, and it's nothing for us. Because look, man, we got money.
Yes,
we're rich.
yes.
We're so rich.
Peacock's doing well. The Peacock money's coming in.
That's like $10 to us. That's nothing. Okay,
Precisely.
We got $1 billion. All right, that's great. But we run into problems if we say, yeah, we want to be a championship organization, and we're going to be the ones who make it happen. Jose, you're going to be over the business aspect, and I'm going to be into player personnel, and I'm going to hire the coaches, and I'm going to be over the GM. All right, well, that's not going to work. So there are a lot of people who have money. A lot of these rich people have money, but a lot of them don't want to step back and let somebody else run the operation and take it to a championship level because they feel like, hey, I spent all this money, I'm going to be involved.
Yeah.
And I think the smartest thing that they did was recognize what their strengths were. Like Wick will be the first to tell you, he's like, man, I can't scout talent. I don't know. If it's the best player, if it's the next LeBron, sure, I can see that guy's going to be great. But I wouldn't have been able to see Giannis when he was 18 and know that he would one day be a 2-time MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. I didn't have that eye for that. So I got to make sure I bring in somebody like a Danny Ainge. Or not even that. I got to make sure one of my partners knows to bring in Danny Ainge. So that was Pagliuca. Yeah. He's like, okay, I love basketball, but I can't pick talent either. But I know where to go. So he went and he hired Danny and let Danny do it. And so it's just, when you're in business, you got to be involved. You can't just step back and let somebody do it for you, but you also shouldn't overstep and just say, well, I'm the boss. I got the title, so I'll do whatever I want. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but your organization probably won't reach its peak with that attitude.
Yeah. I like that answer from you. I wanted to share 3 things that I learned about when I read this book, and after I'll let you answer what you learned writing this book. But these are the 3 things that I specifically learned, and I'll take home with me till the day I die now. Number 1 is to never trust Danny Ainge in an interview. If Danny Ainge tells you that he likes something in an interview, you have to automatically disagree with no matter what it is. If he says he likes puppies, that means you're a cats guy. That's number 1. Number 2 is to always have your shit together around Kevin Garnett, because he's kind of like a pit bull, man. He'll just snap at you, and that must be the most scary thing in the world. I could not imagine such a thing. And to number 3 was to not give Rajon Rondo water bottles during film study. So now I would love to hear what you learned about yourself, or maybe the writing process, or maybe even the Celtics. What did you learn about writing in this book?
Oh my goodness. Your 3 are great. I don't know if I could top your 3. They're so funny, so true. I would just say, the business that I learned about the business of the NBA. The business of the NBA is much more intense than I ever would have imagined. Two, I would say to coach, to be a successful coach in the NBA is so much more than coaching. I don't even think the X's and O's are the most important thing of it. It is just really understanding people and understanding when to push and when to step away, and really understanding the psyche of all of your players and using that. And three, like right in front of me, I didn't realize how much the NBA had changed in general and specifically.
Right.
How the big three kind of led to the change in the NBA, how they kind of made it happen. And so I was able to see that as I was writing it. And then I had to step back and go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I didn't know, I thought I was just writing about these three guys, but really I was writing about an era. And I would say now a bygone era of basketball. And what I mean by that is, this is the last super team that was created solely by a general manager. Like Paul Pierce didn't recruit Kevin Garnett to come play with him. Danny Ainge said, I want Kevin Garnett. And Ray Allen didn't say, I want to go to Boston. I want to be traded and I want to play for a contender. Actually, he was content to stay in Seattle, and Danny Ainge went to get him. And super teams don't happen like that now. I mean, LeBron left in 2010 in part because the Celtics kept beating him in the playoffs. He left for Miami.
Michael beat his ass out of there. Michael, put it down.
They loved it. They took great pride in it. Yes. They still do.
I drink LeBron tears, Michael. I don't know if you know.
They're like, oh,
I love it.
They were like, oh, he couldn't handle it. We forced him to leave. But yeah, when he left for Miami and with Bosh and Wade, that started, it wasn't just the decision. That started a trend of how players are pretty much general managers. The best players are general managers. They make it happen. Yeah. And the general managers have to kind of play along with them. So LeBron to Miami, that was like that. LeBron to Cleveland was like that. Kevin Durant to Golden State. Kevin Durant to Brooklyn. LeBron to LA. All of that. Like, hey, I'm going to come here and I'm going to bring this guy along with me. Hey, make it happen. You go to the general manager and you say, hey, general manager, I want Anthony Davis. Get him here. Okay. And they do it. So that's how business is done in the NBA now. And I know a lot of people really are offended by that. And they're like, oh, this shouldn't be. And, that's the way it is now. And look, the world has not ended. The league has not ended because players have some agency. It's just the next wave of evolution.
Yeah, I think one of my first basketball memories which is kind of weird saying this was seeing LeBron, or I guess one of the ones that burned it, seeing LeBron walk out and taking off his jersey, his Cavs jersey, will always stick with me too.
Oh yeah,
that was that whole story and everything there was awesome. But you said the word super team, and I'm glad you did. This was the last super team built by a general manager. What made this team different though? Because they did their thing. They went out there and they said they won a championship in their first year together. Not many teams do that, unless you're the Golden State Warriors and Durant. There's a special exceptions. LeBron didn't do it in Miami. He didn't do it in LA. What made this team different to rise above, all the drama and everything to win this title kind of handily? It seemed fairly simple for them. It just took one African word and then boom, they're in the finals and then a game 6 blowout, I believe.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. But I think it was the difference is I think they all felt pressure to win it in that first year. There was a sense of desperation from the three best players on the team. And that's what I'm talking about with Doc Rivers. He just knew how to tap into that because he experienced that himself. He really always wanted to win a championship when he played, and he never got the opportunity to do it as a player. He hadn't had the opportunity as a coach, and he knew how to speak to these guys, these three guys who had never appeared in an NBA Finals game. And he looked at their age, and he just kind of said things to them that stuck, and got them to buy into sacrifice and playing for themselves, but also playing for their teammates and for the city. And they never really had that moment of, like some teams do it. They go, well, you know what? We'll kind of take our time through the regular season, and then we'll turn it on in the postseason. No, from the start, they won their 66 games in the regular season. and they struggled in the first round against Atlanta, a bad team because they didn't take them seriously.
Shout out to Magic City.
But they didn't take it. That's right. Magic City. Magic City is kicking out. That's a great quote from Doug. But then in the playoffs, they just got stronger and stronger in the postseason. You know, beating Cleveland in round 2, and then beating Detroit in 6 games in the conference finals, and then just rolling over the Lakers in that game 6. So a lot of teams don't gel that quickly, but they were able to, not just with the 3 stars, but everybody on the roster.
Yeah, and so I think the most, or something I wasn't expecting going into this book. You know, I go in here expecting just stories about the big 3: Ray Allen, Doc Rivers, all those guys. What you don't expect is just learning about Rajon Rondo. And like I said, I wasn't, you know, with the shits enough when I was younger. I didn't know all these stories. I wasn't following NBA gossip. And, you know, there wasn't Twitter back then, so we weren't finding all this stuff out, you know. Rondo, you know, his mood swings, his trial and tribulations with Ray Allen, throwing water bottles and all that stuff. What did he reach his peak as a career? You know, seeing him on the Lakers right now really hurts my feelings personally. But he was so good. He even in a series with LeBron and Dwayne Wade, he turned out to be the best player in that series for a couple of games until, I believe this is the same series, until Dwayne Wade decided to dislocate his elbow. I'll never forgive Dwayne Wade for that either. But did he reach
that was the year before. That was the year before.
Oh, okay, good. Well, see, I don't forget Dwayne Wade though. That I'll never forget.
Oh yeah, that
Dwayne
was
hurting my feelings like that.
Yeah, that was a nasty play. I would say, you know, Rondo's fascinating because, you know, some teammates didn't like Rondo, and Ray Allen is his biggest example. Some teammates, you know, they just were kind of put off by him. He and Doc had an up and down relationship. He and Danny had a great relationship. Yeah. I mean, Danny loved him and still loves him. And he just loved Rondo. He identified him very early when a lot of people weren't talking about Rondo. And he went to Rick Grossbeck. He said, man, he used to call him that little sucker. I love that little sucker, Rondo. Man, I love this guy. Something about him. You know, he's just so competitive. He's so good. He's so unusual. Look at him. He's unique. And you know, Wick listened to him and said, okay, Danny, all right, go get him. Go back and get him. I've never heard you talk about a guy like this before. Go back into the draft and get him.
That's a crazy conversation.
And that was a big move.
That's a crazy conversation.
That was a big move at the time.
Yeah, that's just a casual conversation. Yeah, Danny, just trade up for him, man. Like, obviously, that's such a weird conversation to have with someone. Just like, go acquire this guy and go trade up and get this picks. And he did it, and he got it, you know?
Yeah. And you know what was so unusual about it, though, is that they had made a big trade for a point guard. So, you know, that was the year they got Sebastian Telfair. They gave up a lottery pick to get Sebastian Telfair. Now, that's only part of the story. The other part is they gave up a lottery pick to clear some cap room out, and Reef LaFrance had a huge contract, so they were able to clear his contract and then bring back Sebastian Telfair. So theoretically, if you're looking at the time, you'd say, well, they already got their point guard of the future in Sebastian Telfair. Why are they trading back into the first round for another point guard in Rondo? That's how much Danny liked him, and Wick Grossbeck. I think Rondo had played his best basketball here in Boston. Wasn't always consistent.
Yeah.
And that was part of his argument with Ray Allen. He didn't like Ray, and Ray said, hey, you only play when the lights are on. Hey, why don't you play all the time? Why don't you play hard all the time? They go back and forth. But at his best, let me tell you, Jose, ooh, goodness.
The best.
Oh, man. He was just so much fun to watch, and it wasn't even the numbers. You look at his game 6 in the finals, I think he was 7 for 21 from the field. So, like, it's not like, oh, man, he was on fire, but he controlled that game. And then there was a game against Orlando where one of the great hustle plays in basketball, there's a ball on the floor, and he and Jason Williams are going for it, but Rondo is moving at a different speed, and he dives on the floor. He gets the ball, bounces back up, crosses over Jason Williams, and then scores. And the crowd goes crazy. And Danny is standing up in the seat. Danny said, that's one of the best plays I've ever seen in my life. And if you look at his stats for that game, not great. So it wasn't like Rondo was not a player you judge by the stats. It's like the surges. It's the moments. He was a big moments player. And when he was right, the Celtics were at their best. Sometimes he wasn't right, and the Celtics were dysfunctional when that was the case.
Yeah, like I said, he honestly, even with the big three, I think Rondo was my favorite player of this team, just because I could not shoot as a basketball player, and Rondo could not shoot as a basketball player. He still can't. It's amazing that I see him taking threes now. It's truly incredible. But what he could do with the basketball, passing ability, everything else was just so good. He had quick hands on defense too. He's the best. I love Rondo, and I'm just going to choose to ignore that he is in LA and he won a ring with them and all of that. But I think it's also crazy that Rondo is now just buddy with LeBron after assuming all the shit he used to talk about LeBron when he was on the Celtics.
Exactly.
There's no doubt in my mind.
That's the irony, isn't it? That's the irony. Like, they jumped on Ray Allen. Like, how dare you? How dare you leave here and go to Miami? When the truth is, Ray had to leave.
Yeah. And there was no way
he had to leave.
Yeah.
He couldn't stay. He couldn't stay with Rondo. So if Ray had stayed, then it would have been another story, and that would have been like, a Celtics fight at practice again.
Rondo versus Ray Allen fist fight. That's the story.
Every day, probably every other week.
Yeah, no. I honestly, I would have hated Rondo as a teammate too. I mean, honestly, I would not be able to deal with those boot swings. But
it depends. It depends on what your game is. I mean, if you're a shooter, you love him as a teammate.
Yeah, he got you the ball where you wanted it.
Because he'd always get you the ball. And that guy knew that offense inside out, and he would just come up with stuff. He'd come up with angles, and you'd say, "There's no way he's going to get the ball to the guy like that. How's he going to get the ball there?" And he'd do it.
Yeah, I was a prime candidate for trying to drive into the basket and not having big enough hands to palm the basketball, and then trying to do the Rondo like fake pass, cool thing. And then just throwing the basketball away because my hands are tiny. So hey, that was my kind of game on the court, Mike. I'm glad that we're talking about my basketball game now. I'm glad that we've come full circle. I'll bet you were a much better player than I was. Michael, I'll take your money on that, because I surely was not. That was just simply not true. But hey, we're out here. We're trying. I'm an effort player. That's all that matters.
Oh, okay. Let's see. That's then we cancel each other out, because that was always my thing. My thing was, hey, can't shoot. Can't handle the ball, but you know what? I'll just be hustling. I'll get you some junk rebounds.
Yes, exactly.
I'll set some picks. I'll hustle for you.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like I was Rondo-esque back then. Now I'm Marcus Smart-esque. I can't shoot. I'll play a little defense, but I'll hustle my ass off. That's all I've got in my tank. So I love it.
I'll tell you who I am right now. When you're watching the NBA game, and you kind of scan the bench and you see some former player in a suit, you're like, oh, he used to play, but now he's a coach.
Yep.
That's me.
Evan Turner. I am retired. Evan Turner.
I am retired.
Yes.
I look at, there's so many friends of mine, like once you cross 40, I feel like, listen.
It's all over.
All right. There's a certain kind of player, if you're over 40 and you continue to play, you're fine. You're fine. Because hey, if you can shoot, you'll be fine. But for me, an effort player over 40, that is asking for a torn ACL, ruptured Achilles, or something. And so I never could shoot. So my game does not age. I have a young person's game, but as somebody who is not 25, it's just silly for me to be playing basketball the way I play it. So I had to stop. I stopped.
I feel the exact same way. I have not touched a basketball in years, and I am very satisfied with my choices. Michael, you had a lot of just absolutely hilarious and great quotes throughout this book, and I'm going to shoot you a couple here, and I'd love to hear just which one was your favorite, if it's on this list or just in general.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I'll run these down, and I'll end with my favorite one. I know you can't cuss because of your religion, but maybe I just said how you feel. Do you remember? Actually, I should ask you. Do you remember where this is from?
Yes, that's after they didn't get the #1 pick. That's Danny Ainge. That's Mr. Danny.
Yes, shout out to the Kevin Durant lottery. We'll just keep playing this game. I'll give you the quote, and you tell me where it's from. Some are easier than some others. Wick, let me be the first to congratulate you on winning a 2008 NBA championship.
Yeah, that's great. Glenn Taylor to Wick Grossbeck after he called him back and said, hey, deal's on.
I love how. By the way, I would never. I don't know about you, but if I was a general manager, I don't think I would just trade someone and say, "Here's a championship." I don't think I'd willingly trade someone a championship. But that's just
exactly
me.
Like you bastard. Okay, yeah, here. Yeah, I agree. All right, if I'm not happy with it, here.
Fine.
Deal's
Take
done.
my franchise. But that's exactly what Paul George did to the Thunder.
Or you just text him. Or you just text him. You're like, yeah, we're good. Like that, who calls anymore? Just like text. Yeah, we got it. We're good with that.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things of the 21st century and all this on the GMs and stuff is that I love how I just thinking about Danny Ainge just like texting Elton Brand about trades and stuff. And like, I wonder if like, maybe Elton Brand like uses some emojis to talk about like a certain player, like, oh, here's Markelle Fultz, fire emoji. He's a great player. These are the things, I think about. But here,
they're probably gifts. They're probably doing a bunch of gifts.
Yes. I can see Danny Ainge as a gift guy, no doubt in my mind. As soon as Humphries turned around, there was a player with both hands around his throat. Who was that player, Michael?
Oh man, Rondo at home against Brooklyn. That's great.
It's also the nice irony is that Chris Humphries is not known as a basketball player anymore, and just thinking about him and getting choked by Rondo must.
Yeah,
it's just wild to think about. Next one, this one's a classic. I think at the end of the book, I read that you were actually here when this happened, or something.
Oh yeah.
This was a certain New York basketball player. Nah, Doc, fuck that. There's some things you don't say to a man. That was some disrespectful shit.
Let me tell you, man. I'm lucky I didn't get punched that day.
Really? Yes. Here we go.
Just on general principle. Like, hey, African American, short, bald. I could have been KG's little brother, KG's cousin, KG's. Maybe I was KG's hype man. Maybe I wrote his jokes for him. I don't know. Like Carmelo could have been like, wait a minute.
That's him right there.
Who are you? You're about to get this too. You're about to get this. But I was standing right there. Doc, once again, Doc saved the day because Doc was like, nah, Melo, come on, Melo. Man, and I could smell Melo's breath at that time, man. He was breathing fire. And he was trying to get on the Celtics bus. Like terrible KG's already on the bus.
Terrible.
He's trying to climb on the bus.
What a terrible idea.
It was fantastic. And then to be on the bus leaving New York and to hear that chatter from the players, like, oh, and then that's when KG said, hey, I wish he would have gotten on that. No,
yeah,
KG,
exactly.
You can't do that now.
Man.
You can't do that now. You can't do that. It's too late to be saying, oh, I wish he would have gotten on this bus. Oh, no, he would have gotten on the bus. With the rage that he had, I think you would have been plastered on the windows or something.
I would have loved to see it. I would have loved to see that whole Boston Celtics team on that bus with Melo, man. Who would have known what would have happened? Here are two quick ones for you. These are, I guess, quick. You already know these. Insist on that pick swap. That was good old Wick Grossbeck right there.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that's a trade and a quote that is special in my heart because of who that became. Another one, get the ball, don't give it up. Red, of course.
Ooh, thank you. Oh, rest in peace. Yes. My man, Red Auerbach. Love him.
Yes, he the architect. No shout out to Rick Pitino. Again, I was not coherent for the Rick Pitino experience, but I'll never, just reading about it, if Rick Pitino wants to kick off Red Auerbach from president of basketball ops, or
come on, exactly,
you just don't do it. What are you
thinking?
What are we doing?
Yeah, what are you thinking? Like that's just bad advice. Whoever and from what I understand, he was advised that that was not an original idea. So if somebody tells you that, that's somebody you should not be taking advice from.
Terrible. Yeah.
So because if you just say it out loud, okay. So what you're saying to me is I should go into Boston to the Boston Celtics. And I should insist on a title that Red Auerbach has had for decades. That's a good move for me. That's what you're saying. Okay, that's somebody who needs to be fired.
Yes, that's a good way to weed out who should be in your life right there. I got two more for you. I'm sorry. I hope you didn't read any of those texts. Congratulations.
Yeah, Doc Rivers and his wife giving him the business after the Celtics were down in Game 4 to the Lakers, getting drilled. She's sending them all these nasty texts. Your team is soft. Play some defense. I love it. How about the line? She said, your team should have stayed. Tell your team to move out of the Four Seasons into a Motel 6.
I think it's hilarious that your wife is just chirping you and your team while you're just coaching and have no idea.
That is great. I love that.
Okay, and this last one, this is my last one. This is the favorite quote I have here, and it involves one of the biggest players to ever play basketball. Hey, Shaq, you on the Boston motherfucking Celtics. This is how we play defense, all right?
Oh, as someone said to me, because I was saying, like, what's going on? Like, KG just doesn't back down from anybody. So look, KG wouldn't back down from Mike Tyson. Now he'd get his ass kicked, but he wouldn't back down.
Of course,
he's just that's just not what he does. And that was that was typical, Jose, of what KG would do. KG, if Doc didn't make a point in practice, the coach, blow the MFing whistle, blow the MFing whistle.
Oh, I have that quote written down too. Don't you worry, I have it down too.
Hey, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Like he'd be on it. Like, KG was always on in practice. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to coast here. I'll turn it on during the games. That guy who was so intense and sweating and cussing and pointing during games, that's what he was like in practice.
Yeah. All right, Michael, we've run a little bit over time here, but let me end you with this. Let me do a little lightning round with you. Some quick questions.
All right, let's do it.
I want these answers off the top of your head. Number one, let's start here. What's your favorite Danny Ainge trade that he's made?
Favorite Danny Ainge trade? Come on, trade for KG.
Okay, that seemed easy. Wow, that was just quick.
Easy. That's too easy.
Okay,
give me a tougher one.
What hurts more for Celtics fans? The Heat 3-2 LeBron Game 6, 2010, the Artest shot, or the Durant lottery?
2010, because everybody still talks about that one, Jose. Ooh, if I had done this, everybody's got if I had done this story. Everybody on the roster, general manager, head coach. Yeah, it's 2010 by far.
Okay. What is your favorite Doc motivational tactic? Ubuntu or as I call it, 2600?
Favorite motivational tactic. You know what? It's actually a little known one.
Okay. Those are my favorite.
It's a little
ones,
known.
Michael.
It's just like he would always say to the team. Now think about this, especially now and the times that we live in. Everybody's like, nobody really trusts each other as much as they should, and we allow our differences to get in the way sometimes. But he would always say to the team, if I see you guys, if I ever see you, if we're out at dinner on the road, if I ever see you anywhere out to dinner, and if I see you together, I'm going to pay for dinner. I will pick that up.
That's a good one.
And so they would, and so think about what he was doing there. So sometimes guys would be like, "Hey, Doc, man," and they tell him where they were.
Don't pay for us, man.
So, hey, we're hanging out. It's like 5 of us together because what he really wanted, and they did it naturally. But if they didn't do it naturally, he was always a guy who wanted to make it happen. He wanted those guys to spend time together because a team that was close together off the court, he knew that would translate to the court. So that was one of the things he did. I love that. And it proves how much money he has, man. Paying for all those dinners. That's a lot of money.
Something light. I bet you Doc's been stacking up those coaching jobs, so he's definitely got money to blow now. He's probably still doing that. I could see it. I always think, by the way, I think, man, Doc, why don't we just bring out the Ubuntu again? Let's just pull it back out. That could have helped the Clippers last year. You needed some Ubuntu there. Maybe he'll do it with the
they weren't buying it.
76ers.
I think he knew. He was like, I'm not even going to try this. These guys are so far from Ubuntu. It ain't happening. I'm not even going to try this.
Yeah. How many times a day do you think of Ubuntu? I guess that'll be another lightning round question here.
Oh, is that a lightning round question?
Oh yeah. How many times do you think about Ubuntu a day? Does it ever just pop in your head? You get a little frustrated sometimes.
I love it.
Okay,
man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I say 3 times a day. I love it. Good. I love the concept.
Awesome. Hey, there you go. 3 times a day is just enough. What's a better endorsement for a future job? Who's a better endorsement for your future job? Sean McVay, Bill Belichick, or Red Auerbach?
Oh.
All 3 of these people can get you a job very quickly.
Oh, man. I got to go with Belichick, though. You got to go with
The
Belichick,
coaching
right?
tree is dense. Let me tell you. If you're around Belichick for a minute, you can get a job.
See, this is what you got to do, though. You're on Belichick, you get the job, but this is what it's like anything else. How do you learn to be a great podcaster? How do you learn to be a great musician? All this stuff. Like, one, you got to have some natural ability, but two, you do the things that you see things that you like, you do those. Things that you don't like, ignore those. So people, the people in the Belichick tree, a lot of them have just taken everything from Bill Belichick and tried to take it to the next place. I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. He's terrible with the media, but he can get away with it because he's Bill Belichick. Yeah. You can't do that.
Shout out to Mike Patricia.
You haven't won a Super Bowl. You think you could go like Matt Patricia going to Detroit, like being a jerk to the media? They're like, wait a minute, dude. You suck. We're not going to take this. We're not going to take this from you. We take it from Belichick because he's got 6 rings, but you don't.
Yeah. No, hey, you got a point there. I don't think if Matt Patricia told me to do something football related, I'd have to ask myself a couple questions before that too. I think this will be the most difficult question for you, Michael. Here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Did Paul Pierce poop his pants? Yes or no?
No.
A lot of
no.
Michael, come on. A lot of people. The streets are talking, Michael.
He's talking. He said it.
Lamar Jackson last night even said, "I didn't pull a Paul Pierce."
I didn't do a Paul Pierce. It's so funny. Look, it's a better story. It kind of deflects. It turns a situation where people make fun of you for being a faker. Like, oh man, you act like you really were hurt, and then you just came. You got in a wheelchair. And then you came back out and you won. You were fine. No, actually, he thought he tore his ACL. The staff thought he tore his ACL. They went back there. He stood on it. You're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm good to go. And he came running back out. But no, the poop thing, no, he didn't poop. So.
God dang. I wish that was true. All right, my last question.
But it's a better story. It
definitely is. It definitely is. I definitely still might choose to believe he pooped his pants. We'll see.
Yeah, I think you should. Okay. I think you should go with that.
As long as I have your blessing, Michael. I mean, if I didn't, then I don't know.
Yeah, because look, hey, Paul Pierce said that's what happened. So yeah, go with that.
Okay, well, hey, if Paul said it, then I guess I got to roll with it. I listened to him. My last question for you, Michael. If you could be a fly on the wall for any moment, any scene in this book, what would that scene have been? There's a lot of scenes that you could pick here, a lot of good ones. KG's first time on a duck boat. That was funny, and that has some meaning behind it. Rondo versus the TV. You could do a Kevin Garnett petty moment. I call it players first, when he just slaps the food out of the doctor's hand.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, you could pick Rondo versus Ray Allen, that war that they had after the team got into an argument, and then for some reason Rondo just pops off for a second. You could do plenty of you even include, this is the craziest part. This is the thing I least thought I was going to see in this book. Bill Belichick ordering shots for everyone before the game was over? What?
Right.
What moment, Michael? What moment would you want to see or be there for?
Oh man, those are some good ones. Oh, they're all so good. Oh, you know what? I think I would pick the Rondo Ray stuff.
You want to get spicy?
I think I'd say Rondo Ray, but I'm going to take the whole day. I want the day. Because that includes the locker room where they got into it.
Yeah.
That includes the plane. So they go to the plane and they tried to work it out on the plane, but that didn't work.
Very awkward plane ride.
And then so what I get there, I want bang for the buck. So what I get is Rondo and Ray. I get to see the response of everybody else. I get the gossip of everybody else.
Okay, yes, that's a key one. That's a good one right there.
I'm getting a lot of stuff here. I'm just thinking about all the string that I could collect. Because then that one moment, okay, let's say I pick the Rondo throwing the thing at the TV. Okay, that's all I get. What else? I want something else.
Michael, I didn't even mention. I just forgot about this quote completely. You get the all-time dot quote. Fuck that, Rondo. Or fuck that. I want Rondo the fuck out of here. That's all time right there. Man, that's so good. Fuck that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun experience. It was great. So look, man, I'm so glad. I'm glad we had a conversation. Yeah. And now that I got something for you.
Oh boy.
now that you have read the Jordan Rules and the Big Three,
Yes.
what's the next book you're going to read? What's the next one?
That is an excellent question. I have started and just stopped reading. I believe I forget what it's called. I think it's Ball 4, the famous baseball book. I've been told.
Oh yeah, that's from back. Oh man, look at you going back in history. That was like that was the first.
I was told
kind of tell-all book.
Yes.
That was the first tell-all.
Here's the thing, Michael. I love the sports gossip. I think that's one of my favorite parts about sports. I love transactions and that's. I love that kind of stuff. That's good. It's kind of the only bad thing about it is that first tell-all book, but all of the people in these books might as well just be fictional characters to me. Like,
yeah, because you're like, who's this guy?
Yeah,
like who?
Exactly. That's why I like this book. I was like, oh, I know Mr.
I know
James
that guy.
Posey and Ray Allen. I know him.
Yeah, like Ball 4, they're talking about Mickey Mantle and like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Mantle.
Sure, Babe Ruth, a made-up player. Yeah, a made-up person.
Right.
Exactly. See, so that's a good question. It might be Ball 4. I might pick that back up. I have the Portland Trailblazers book as well.
Ooh.
Yes, I have that one as well.
Oh, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you got Breaks of the Game?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Breaks of the Game. Mm-hmm.
Bruh, let me tell you.
I've been told it's a great book.
That is your next read.
Okay.
That's your next read. That is just great. That like David Halberstam, it's just so unfair. Rest in peace, David. So unfair. Like the guy, he could
craft a sentence.
Sports books that was like his hobby. He's like, you know what? I'm just gonna drop down into this little lower world. I'm gonna write a sports book. It's gonna be a classic. Yeah, I wrote Breaks of the Game. I wrote Summer of '49. Education of a Coach, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, also was writing about the Korean War and writing about the 50s and all. Like, dude,
something like
you're so like how are you so smart? How are you so well rounded? It's amazing.
Hey, let me tell you, Michael. A lot of people are saying that about you, sir, because 7 books. It's no easy task. Each one better than the last one. Michael, it's been a pleasure talking to you. This has been a very good time. I'm sorry for keeping you a little over the time.
Hey, man, we did it. Listen, we made it happen.
Hell yeah,
we made it happen. We were supposed to do this like a month ago.
Hey, we're here now. It's great. Tell Michael I said hello. I'm sure he'll be like, oh, Jose, yeah, I know him. We
be like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's my boy. That's my boy.
And then the next time you guys talk about the Jets, you guys will be like, all right, Greg Williams, yeah, Jose, yeah.
People are lying when they start doing that too, right? Like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The voice starts getting high.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
And you can tell them anything. Hey, hey Michael, we met outside ESPN.
Yeah.
I brought like an old basketball from like 1955, and you signed it for me. Oh yeah. My man.
Yeah, I'll tell Michael, I was a pinch runner for the Red Sox. I was there when you were covering them for the Globe. I didn't run that much. I'm not much for wheels, but they had me on the team, and he believed me. I can believe it.
Yeah, he believed it. Just say. That's fine.
Well, if I ever meet or talk to Michael Smith, I'll be sure to bring up the time that I met him outside of ESPN with my basketball.
Yeah, make up some outrageous story and see if he'll call you out. He won't call you out.
No
he'll
problem.
He'll just nod his head.
I will. I can't wait to see it. I hope that happens soon, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you. This is a blast. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Michael,
really
as you said, Michael, the key's under the mat, man. The key's under the mat. You can come back whenever. You can come back, join me whenever. Michael Holley, author of The Big Three, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and the rebirth of the Boston Celtics. Thank you for joining us, Michael.
Appreciate you. Thank you.